Internet, and welcome to the Lazarus and Dangerfield show. I am Mr. Buck Lazarus, and as always, I am joined by my mi amore in life, but
That's new.
in a non-romantic way. Purely platonic, Mr. Clint Dangerfield.
You just keep saying it.
Yeah.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings.
It's a bromance. The show that delivers, well, according to our sponsors, absolutely nothing. But hopefully you will be mildly entertained.
Who knows?
And if not, there's always something else to watch.
Exactly. It's YouTube.
Yeah. You've got
Go watch some cats.
I highly recommend the bagpipes, accordion, recorder, and what's the
Triangle?
Theremin.
The Themin. Classic.
And yeah, definitely, I highly recommend watching them together. Your ears will bleed. Anyway, the show. What have we got in store? So, well, this week is the Holier Than Thou collection. We promise to find out who is a man of the cloth and who is just a shady charlatan. So it is the battle of the Bible. The Bible bashers combined.
Gideon's Bible?
Following that. Gideon Bible, King James Bible.
What is the Gideon's Bible? It's in every hotel room.
They're a group of people that basically hand out Bibles. So my grandfather was one. They basically put Bibles in hotels and hospitals, and I guess it's one of those things that, you know, if you're,
I never knew.
People tend to be depressed in hospitals and in hotels. So I guess it's like a pep talk.
If you're staying in a travel lodge, life's not good.
They clearly are absent from the Cecil Hotel. So if you've watched anything on Netflix about the Cecil Hotel, they're definitely in need of some Gideon Bibles. They've probably all been rolled up for drugs. I guarantee them just tearing up saying, well, free papers, dude. So, but probably. Speaking of Netflix, so what are you watching, Mr. Dangerfield?
On Netflix, my wife and I have been watching Crown. We finally got round to start watching it because we always hear everyone else talking about it. So we are very slowly working our way through The Crown. We've just finished series 3. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. It's nice that you can kind of look up to see what was actually true within the program and what was embellished. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Just one series to go now and see how that is.
You're going for a real royal thing at the moment, aren't you?
That was just coincidence.
Yeah.
So we started that before the Meghan and Harry interview.
Sure.
But apart from that, on Netflix, we're not really watching anything else. We are watching on BBC though a drama called The Terror, which has been really good, and it's all about two ships from 1845, the Terror and the Erebus, and they're trying to find a way through the Northwest Passage, so above and through to Asia, and they get stuck in the ice. Ships get frozen into the ice, and no one knows what happens to them. And basically, they're trapped there, and then the rescue ship that eventually gets there, there's no one left. There's no one there. There's no traces of anyone, and the ships are like torn apart. And yeah,
so it's like a Bermuda Triangle kind of.
It's really good. It's very creepy, and because no one really knows what's happened, they can kind of dramatize it a lot more and add a bit of supernatural element into it. But it's very good. It's really, really good. I recommend that.
When's it set? When's it
1845.
Oh, okay.
So very long time.
I don't watch a lot of Beeb stuff, obviously, for obvious reasons. I was going to say one thing, speaking of boats, so for anyone who knows me, I'm a big fan of pirates, and I really do love pirates. Like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Thank you.
Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously, top 10 favourite. My beloved Lego Pirates of the Caribbean ships are no more now. They have sailed on to
have they been plundered and sunk?
They've sailed on to warmer climes to plunder and pillage other places. But yeah, But maybe one day I might get them again when I'm old and grey, and they're probably worth crazy amounts of money. But speaking of pirates, I'm actually about to start the Lost Pirate Kingdom, so I hadn't added it to my list of
Is that
what
on
I'm
Netflix?
watching. But yeah, it
Yeah.
just looks like quite interesting, and anything to do with pirates, and they're not always fun. But who doesn't
Oh.
love a bit of scurvy and syphilis?
Well, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Standard. Yeah, that was one thing I was actually going to start at some point. So I'll do that.
yeah.
That'll be good. That'll be a good watch.
What scurvy? What, getting scurvy and syphilis?
Exactly. Yeah. It's been
Exactly,
long
yeah.
overdue. It's about
Well,
time.
you know, hopefully they'll get rid of the herpes. So, you know, whatever. It's a bonus. And I'm actually watching The World's Most Wanted. So we kind of mentioned this before, but I'm really into, like, I think everyone is at the moment, crime, real crime. I watched the Unabomber thing. I've got the Ted Bundy tapes. What else did I like? We already mentioned the Cecil Hotel. Don't F with Cats, which I've said is epic. Definitely anyone who's seen that, everyone kind of skips over it. I did as well. And then it was just because I'd binge watched so many, it was just came up, and I was glued to that. But World's Most Wanted, every episode's different. It's about currently world's most wanted people.
I think I've seen that.
So I don't know when it might have been out a while. The problem is with Netflix, there's so much on there, there's so much you miss. So I would definitely recommend anyone that. I'm on the 3rd episode, and it's about they call it the White Widow, but it's kind of like if you're familiar with the.
Yeah, I have seen it. It's a really good series.
Yeah. Basically, she's the jihadi wife. So, but she's like this orchestrator. Puppet master thing. So, and she's still at large. So,
yeah.
Hopefully, CIA MI6. Wink, wink, wink. That's get her. And what else? I've got. What else? If I refer to my Death of 2020.
That is good as well.
See, I'm halfway through that. So, and I have to keep going back. The jokes are amazing.
That's the one with Samuel L. Jackson, isn't it?
Yeah. The snowy hell that is Switzerland. The best thing about this film isn't the actors, it's the narrator. The narrator is absolutely super. I don't care. Right, you've got Lisa Kudrow, you've got Samuel Jackson, you've got Hugh Grant. There's a lot of good people in this film, but the narrator is just absolutely superb.
I was laughing all the way through because of him.
Yeah,
so good.
Just the commentary of what 2020 happened, and the real crapshoot it was. It was not a good year. Not a good year for him. For all of you interneters out there, I don't know about you, but half the time I actually feel like I should be wearing a mask on this show. I got so used to wearing it. So
it is pretty ridiculous. Natural.
So, coronavirus sucks. 2020 sucks.
2021 sucks at the moment.
2021, for me, is slightly better than 2020. 2020 was good. To a certain extent, I quite enjoyed the lockdown to a certain extent. But then, to anyone who has experienced lockdown, it's not fun. But if you're like us, you get to watch a lot of TV, a lot of movies, a lot of games. It's always good. Speaking of a TV, WandaVision, we mentioned it last week.
You finally finished it.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Great. What I love about it is it ties in with the next generation, and I think like anyone who's watched the last phase, there's a certain amount of trepidation towards the next one. You've got all these new heroes being introduced. To most people, a lot of people won't be aware of them, although they've cast some really great people. Yeah. You've got a lot of the originals coming back. For example, Mr. Bucky, who very much resembles Mr. Dangerfield right here, is in a show with Falcon, which looked good. The trailer for Loki looks epic. Amazing. I really like the trailer. And again, they've tied that into the last Avengers film, and everything's interlinked. So I like it. The Mandalorian gave a nod to Star Wars, but didn't have to tie in. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but didn't have to tie in. this tied in without consciously having to do it. We just did it and it worked, and
it just worked.
It sets
so
up a
well.
really good future. So and I think, you know, from what I've read, it's going to be tying into the next Doctor Strange film, which is going to be really cool.
And all the episodes individually were brilliant.
Oh yeah,
written amazingly,
without a doubt. Great show.
It ties in with Captain Marvel too as well, so it does all. It is all nicely linked together. Whether it will tie in with X-Men, who knows? It's always the fandom speculating. Who knows?
But interpreters, us at the Lazarus and Dangerfield show do watch an epic amount of TV and films. So if there is anything you want us to watch, or you're watching, or curious about what we're watching, we can't talk about all of them. Please let us know.
Okay, one thing that we should give a shout out to, which is you sent me last week or a couple of weeks ago, is a show called Cop Rock. An amazing show. I had no idea had existed, and I loved it.
Yeah, see,
I couldn't turn that off.
This is why.
It's awesome.
This is why we watch John Oliver. So I have to give props to him. His researchers are amazing at scrolling the internet. So I do feel like I cheated by sharing that, but and took credit for it. But then, you know, one thing he didn't note on the show, which is something I learned through watching it, was Randy Newman.
Yeah, I couldn't believe Randy Newman did the intro. I'm not going to try and do an impression. No.
So, what is Cop Rock to anyone who's not seen Cop Rock?
It's a gritty police drama that's also a musical. And that's
He's not joking, by the way. He's literally not joking. Right, now, when I hear musical, I cringe. I'm sorry, there aren't many things in life I hate, but musicals aren't them. I remember falling asleep, and there are going to people are going to hate on me for this, through Les Mis. Now, the Les Mis story I have no issue with. I think it's a great story as musicals go. It's something I think is very relatable even today. Brilliant story, but generally, I cannot stand musicals. I even, to a certain extent, find Disney movies a little bit grating when they move into song. Albeit, Moana is a very good exception, because there is a reason why that is still in the top 10 album chart, because it's a great soundtrack. But generally, it is, you know, it's Moana, amazing soundtrack. Lin-Manuel Miranda, Hamilton, great. So anyway, yes, musicals, Cop Rock. Not that.
Watch that whole
something else, something definitely else. Just watch one episode. Trust us.
It's just, yeah.
Anyway. Say some Hail Marys, guys. And our fathers.
What?
Take the Holy Sacrament, because it's about to get holy.
Okay. So, guys, this week's movies that we've watched are Machine Gun Preacher, Velocipastor, and Bulletproof Monk.
So, we put our heads together and we were thinking, who is holier than thou? There aren't many movies where there is a pastor or preacher or monk or priest or involved, and these sort of stuck out. And Velocipastor sort of came to me by chance. Tell us about the movie.
Okay, so the synopsis of Velocipastor. After losing his parents, a priest travels to China, where he inherits a mysterious ability that allows him to turn into a dinosaur. Although he is horrified by the new power, a hooker convinces him to use it to fight crime.
So I'd seen Machine Gun Preacher a few years ago with Gerald Butler, Russell Crowe's more handsome brother, and Bulletproof Monk was a film I didn't watch at the time, which surprises me when it came out.
I did when it came out.
And you did watch it, so you've rewatched this then, actually.
I did not remember it at all, but watching it, there were like little snips. You're like, oh yeah, I've got a vague memory of seeing this.
See, I could imagine you watching this movie. I don't know why. So when you said you hadn't watched it, I was very much surprised because this seems the type of movie that'd be right up your street.
I'll be honest. It went in and
Definitely
went
back in the day,
straight,
anyway. Back in the day.
straight out of my head. It wasn't one to remember.
It is funny that though, isn't it? We can segue here and talk about other films that they're just films that you forget you watch.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen so many, and sometimes there are ones that I love to rewatch, and there are some that I've just forgotten I've watched, and you end up watching it, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this. So, and then there are some that are just so forgettable that you end up watching it a second time, and then someone else reminds you saying, oh, we've watched this, and you're like, have I? Wait. So, Velocipastor, I definitely wish I could have done that. And Bulletproof Monk, if you don't know about Bulletproof Monk, basically we have this monk, Charian Fat. He has to protect this ancient scroll that gives you like amazing powers. And
the world, if you read it out.
Yeah. And it's a bit Indiana Jones, this one. Definitely even has Nazis with it. So
God, why is the bad guy a Nazi?
I think at this time maybe it was
they were the go-to bad guys.
Well, no, you had like I just think you don't want to go after like terrorists and
did you
exactly. I think it was just easier to go after an old bad guy than try and throw a new one into the work. Maybe relations with Russia were good, Iran was good. So
Bulletproof
Monk, who's the new bad guy?
Did you enjoy it?
Bulletproof Monk? No. No.
God.
This dragged on. Not the worst film I've seen. I like Charian Fat in this film. He's good. Sean William Scott was the disappointment in this film.
He really
choice.
Was. But I think he was still riding a high from American Pie, and
well, that's the thing. I think he was building a career, and he has done some good films.
Road Trip was a good film,
and also Paul Rudd. So Sean William Scott in Role Models with Paul Rudd, hilarious. McLovin's in it, such a good film. So I feel like his lines were really wooden and really out of place. He never got going.
No, there were a couple of moments where he was kind of classic Sean William Scott. Yeah.
Also, it's a Bulletproof Monk. It's Charian Fat. It's a martial arts movie, and he's not immediately who you go for in martial arts.
He's not bulletproof either.
Tell us what Velocipastor is about.
Well, exactly.
Other than the crazy synopsis.
That is what it's about. That is exactly the film. It is so terrible that it's really enjoyable. I really liked this movie because I don't want to watch it again. But
I would rather watch Jiu-Jitsu. I would rather watch Jiu-Jitsu than this one. For me, I found it quite offensive, which says something, considering you look at, it's not in the content. I genuinely believe these were some film students. This is a B movie, guys. It has a low budget. You compare it to Machine Gun.
The guy that made it,
you can't.
Deliberately made it bad. It was not a serious movie.
Yeah.
It was very deliberate in what it was doing, which is why I kind of enjoyed it for its terribleness. Whereas Bulletproof Monk was released at the cinema and was designed to be a big action film with possibly a sequel they were gunning for, and it just flopped. So it was just terrible. Velocipastor knows what it's doing, knows its market, knows what it's aiming for, and it's aiming to be just awful.
What I found about this though was that, and I mentioned this at the time of watching it, was there was too much of there was no continuity and no consistency. If all right, Bam Margera was in Jackass, he was riding the Jackass fame. So Bam Margera did obviously his CKYs, if you've seen the CKY films, and he did a film called Haggard. Haggard is, I guess, along these lines, it's a bad B movie, but it was funny, and there were parts that weren't necessary. And all right, maybe it's because people knew who he could get away with it, but it was as bad as this in some respect. But for me, this was just, I feel like it was lazy, and I
That's fair
honestly
enough.
think I like the idea. I think the premise of the movie is great. I just thought the execution and particularly the writing was really lazy writing, and
That's
I was
and that's
disappointed
it.
because the poster's epic.
Yeah, it does not look anything like the poster.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all, really not at all.
But then again, I
The,
would recommend watching this film because to me, it just seems like it's one of those films you should
sure.
just for its just sheer awfulness. That's
I would
enjoyable.
love to know the thoughts of people on this one. And our last one is Machine Gun Preacher. So again, it's very
I've
hard,
never,
you're
yeah.
right, to hold Velocipastor up to Machine Gun Preacher. But it's Gerald Butler. Gerald Butler, and he has a funny one. He's a bit of a roller coaster, this guy, because he's kind of done some good films.
Yeah.
He's done some sort of bad films,
Yeah.
and now he's sort of kind of off the radar a bit, isn't he? Sort
No,
of
he's
like,
got a new movie
do I
that
want to?
he has got a movie coming out like
No, I mean in the
any month.
sense of he's becoming a bit Bruce Willis and a lot of people, and I hate to say that, becoming a little bit straight to DVD. I'm working with a paycheck. It's a shame because he's not a bad actor. I think he's got a good range. He's British, and if you hear his British accent and then hear the accents he does in movies, like Damian Lewis, like a lot of British actors actually who are in Hollywood, they do a good job of hiding the fact that they're British. Benedict Cumberbatch, for example. Uh, this movie is based on a true story. It's
Yeah,
about what do you say? He's a Hell's Angel motorcycle
yeah,
gang,
yeah. A guy called
meth guy.
Sam Chowder. I think
Yeah,
he's yeah Sam Chowder, a
and
former drug dealing biker.
sure. And then basically becomes a Christian because of his wife, who was an ex-stripper. Great story. And anyway, ends up becoming a missionary and working on building these schools in Africa. The problem is, obviously, in Sudan at this time, there's this massive conflict where the country was at civil war, and obviously you had child soldiers, you had the whole Coney stealing children. And it's a really serious story and it's
Yeah,
horrible,
yeah.
but he takes kind of actions into his own hands and starts fighting back at these militias. Definitely worth watching, definitely
Oh,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. I had no
Uh,
idea about the film at all,
it's the
and I enjoyed
interesting
it.
premise. Yeah, I think, and
It's
of
sad. Um,
yeah,
the whole yeah. I mean, with it being based on a true story, and this
yeah.
the whole thing actually happened. It is quite a sad story, but it's really good,
I
really
would
interesting.
there's so I'm not going to glorify this guy. There is some controversy that surrounds him, and it's a controversial subject. In one thing, he's also a pastor, a preacher, and obviously, anyone who's familiar with the Christianity, it's a passive religion. Uh, World War II, there were many Christians who wouldn't fight, and they were considered cowards because it's against their religion. So a gun-toting pastor that goes after militia,
But he is
uh,
American, so
definitely, yeah, well, yeah, Christians and guns. But it brings up an interesting topic of the righteous war, and you could say the same. Does it glorify murder? Could you, and not just if you're a pastor, if you were, I think all of us have that sort of charitable bone in our body where we want to be doing more, and we watch these things like Comic Relief and stuff like that, and rather than just give money, is there any way I can give my time? But if you saw injustice, would you stand by and do
it's a
nothing? Would
very
you be
interesting
a
topic.
passive,
Yeah,
have passive resistance, or would you be an aggressor like him? So it's an interesting dichotomy, but a great film. I enjoyed it, and it's the second time
yeah,
watching it actually. So,
yeah. I really
um,
going into it not knowing what it was about, just knowing Gerard Butler was in it.
mm,
I really enjoyed it. It was yeah. Good watch. Good watch.
It's not.
Another recommendation.
It's 300 for Christians. So. But yeah, on that note, of the three, and it's horrible, but we have to have this ramshackle of films together because this is what we do. So, Velociraptor, Bulletproof Monk, and Machine Gun Preacher. Which one would you F? Which one would you kill? And which one would you marry? We're not going to do this. This isn't become a thing. I would definitely kill Velocipastor.
No, I would say Bulletproof Monk.
Which one would you marry?
I would probably marry Velocipastor.
Really? So that means marries you've got to live
because
with,
it's
I could live with Machine Gun Preacher.
I don't know.
So you'd F the This is just wrong on so many levels, people.
You put it up. You put it down.
I put the words in. I put the words. Hang me up on your dartboards at night, people.
To put it simply, I would recommend Machine Gun Preacher and Velocipastor. Good film.
Bulletproof Monk.
As films, certainly films to watch. Machine Gun Preacher is a good film. Velocipastor, in my opinion, is good fun. It's awful, so terrible, but it's such good fun. And Bulletproof Monk, my God, just what I didn't actually know. What made me laugh about Bulletproof Monk is you got the Nazi bad guy at the start in his Nazi uniform, and then it cuts to 6 years later, and show because he's now very old, he's in his 80s or 90s, to show that it is the same bad guy. He's still wearing his Nazi uniform.
Yeah. Why would you throw that out?
He's in a wheelchair still in his Nazi uniform.
I can say this now. It was made by Hugo Boss. That stuff lasts.
So anyway, that's.
Don't sue me, Hugo Boss. You know what you did.
So yeah.
For me, Machine Gun Preacher, I think, is a great story, and I'm not going to hate on the whole kind of thing. Velocipastor, as you know, I found that offensive. So for me, and just as I said, lazy. Bulletproof Monk, just massively disappointing for movies of that time. And, the noughties were great. You've had some great movies, and Charlie and Fuck was in some great movies, and Sean William Scott was in some great movies. This wasn't one of them. And it was, it's it's like the poor man's Indiana Jones stroke. I want to say Rush Hour, maybe. I don't know. It was.
Yeah, no, I get.
I'd definitely watch. Yeah. I would watch both of those two, definitely over this. So,
that's fair.
So overall, 3. I'd say 4 VHS tapes from Machine Gun. 0. I'm gonna go 0 on Velocipastor, and 2 for Bulletproof Monk. Wasn't terrible, but
I'd give it 1 Bulletproof Monk. 2, possibly 3 for 2 for Velocipastor.
I really like that.
I think I enjoyed it more than I actually realised. I don't know, if I watched it again, I probably wouldn't like it. I just have the feeling if I watch it again, it's kind of roasting glasses. It was funny the first time, and it won't be funny the second time.
It started well, I'll give it that.
It ended well as well. And then, I think 3 for Machine Gun Preacher.
3, okay. I would say 4. For me, it was a good one, but yeah.
It was enjoyable. I really liked it, but I don't think, for me, I don't think it's higher than good film.
Anyway, on that note, guys,
that's it.
We will let you decide of this unholy trinity, which one you think is best, which one is the Judas, and which one is the Barabbas, and which one is St. Peter.
See, okay.
Yeah. They're not Jesus, are they? Peter. St. Peter. Angel Gabriel, Paul John the Baptist, Noah. We have to go. This is all New Testament, so because they're all pastors, so it has to be New Testament. So we have to go.
Idea. I would take your word.
Anyway, we're getting religious, and on that note,
time to go.
I don't know how to do that either. I'm probably deeply offending Catholics now. Yes.
What the whole?
Say some Hail Marys, peeps.
I learnt this from a movie called Nuns on the Run. Spectacles, testicles, wallet, and watch.
Okay, there we go. So yeah, on that deeply offensive note, we will bid you adieu. We'll see you next week.
Later. Watch Velocipastor.